Attorneys, is your billable hour requirements in alignment with your values?
Welcome to another episode of the 6-Minute Obsession. Rob, what are we talking about today? Are we back to this values thing?
We are. It's about learning whether the requirements that you have for your billable hours is in alignment with who you are, or it's a conflict with your values that you have.
All right, so let's bullet point this for folks to let them know what we're going to cover here. So what are the 3 key takeaways we want to cover in today's episode?
Well, as always, before you can determine whether it's in alignment or in conflict, you have to determine what your core values are. Next, you have to ask yourself why you put pressure on yourself the way you do. And third, ask yourself whether there is a better way to work, and what is that way?
Excellent. All right, well, let's deliver what we promised in 0.2 billable hours or less. Let's talk about these 3 things. So why are values something we just never seem to be able to escape in our conversations, Rob?
Because it determines everything about us. Every step of the way, we have a value choice to make. Whether it's something that we agree with, whether it's something that we disagree with, it's who we are. It's our who. It's what makes us who we are is our values. Whether a value for us is, I'm going to give a terrible example here, but if a value for us is lying all the time, then you would have no issue lying all the time because that's a value for you. If you like to lie, that's great. You have no problem with that value. Other values that you may have might come in conflict with that, but that's a value that you may have. But
sure.
Coming up with who you are, because we're all unique. We're all different. We all have our unique perspectives. We all have our unique views of the world. By determining what our values are for specific situations will help us make the choices, the conscious choices that we want to make in going forward with our lives.
You know, I'm going to put you on the spot for a second, Rob, because we didn't even talk about this, but it just literally struck me just now. So if you're somebody who doesn't really have a clear sense of, what the heck are my core values, I mean, would you agree with me that just looking at what is stressing you out is a great way to reveal what your core values are? Because if you're feeling stressed out about something, you haven't really fleshed it out in your mind, odds are that conflict is rubbing up against a core value, and that if you can look at why this bothers me so much, you might get a clue there.
That's exactly right. That would actually be the first step of work I would do with a client, is helping them determine what those core values are and maybe giving them a values assessment just to determine how they view the world, to see how they view the world and where those issues are coming from. So yes, it's a lot of times when we feel that pain, and that's what we're talking about here, trying to relieve that pain, it's about coming up with why we are feeling it in the first place. Mm-hmm. We had values as to why we decided to go to law school. That's what gave us that determination. And we have these values that there's this dissonance between the reason that we went to law school and the work we do now, and the pressure that we feel from these billable hours. It's all about values, and it's all about that conflict that you're probably feeling with what you're doing.
Which is, the second point you're talking about here. So you're asking, why do we put this pressure on ourselves in the first place? And I guess part of the answer is because we care about our values, right? Because it's, we're taking a stand for what we are passionate about and what has got, it's kind of reaching the core of who I am.
Yes, if you have a family, and you're trying to support that family, and you say, well, I hate what I do. I hate these billable hour requirements. Well, why do you stay? Why not just leave? Mm-hmm. Well, your family could be an important value for you, and with that value of family, it's about supporting that family. And how can you support that family? It's by having a paycheck to support that family. And that's why you stay at a job that you might not be happy with, because you're trying to make ends meet, and you want to be a provider for them. So,
well, and here's where it gets ever so complicated, right, Rob? Because would that life were so simple that all I had to figure out is what's my one core value. But we have multiple core values, and you can be in a lot of situations where, one's being served, but the other's being put in conflict, and now I got to figure out how to rank order them, right?
Right, and it's about determining in that situation, what is the highest ranking value for that situation that you're trying to deal with. Our values are always going to come into conflict with each other. It's a matter of life. We run into choices. We run into situations that are going to put them in conflict. But by making a conscious choice as to which one is a higher value at that point in time, we relieve some of that energy. We relieve some of that negative stress that we feel. And we go forward and we feel better about the decision we made because it was in alignment with our highest value at that point.
Man, you want to make me do a lot of work, Rob. You not only want me to know what my values are, but you want me to figure out how they are in hierarchical order, But I get what you're saying. There's clearly a payoff, right? If I know not only what my values are, but which are the most important ones, which are the medium important ones, and which are a little more flexible, then I know which core value is in control. When there's a conflict, I know how to choose, right?
And I'll throw it out another step there. It's about, are you living your values? When I offer a values assessment, it's, here's the value. Well, how much are we living those values? If I say that working hard is an important value for me, but how much do I actually live working hard? And it's on a scale of 1 to 10, it's only a 3, 3 being 1 being the lowest and 10 being the highest. Well, then how important is that value for me? We can say that a value is important, but if we're not actually living it, then it's not probably that important to you.
Right, and that's part of trying to figure, again, you can work backwards, right, from your stress and from the pressure you feel, because if you were 100% in alignment with your values and you were only living your values, then theoretically you shouldn't have a whole lot of stress, right?
Right.
You should be pretty much in harmony.
If working hard is your number one value, and spending every minute at work to gain as much money as possible is your number one value, then there should be no stress at all, because
right,
that's exactly what you want to do.
That's what you're doing.
That's what you're doing. But
who wants that family? Get them out of my life. They're just annoying me.
But there's other competing aspects and other competing values that we all feel, and that's why we feel that stress. That's why, and I'm not saying this is every situation. Each person's different, and it's about determining where the pressure is coming from and why we're placing that pressure on ourselves in the first place before we can determine the next step. Values are normally a key value or a key aspect of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, right, and clearly there's a huge payoff if I know, because we're joking about it, but if I know what my core values are and I'm living them to the best of my ability, then I'm going to have a lot less pressure and stress, or where I have it, I'm going to feel good about it because I'm fighting for what I believe in, right? I'm not feeling oppressed. I'm feeling like, no, I'm going to stand up for this because this is what I really care about, and I'll take the consequences. They're important to me.
So in dealing with this one situation and dealing with the pressures of billable hours, the question to ask yourself, which might reveal your values, is why do you place that pressure on yourself? What is the value that causes you to place that pressure on yourself? And it could be something that you wouldn't even think. It could be the fact, that family could be important, as I said with that example before. Or it could be wealth is important. Or whatever it could be. It could be a number of things. But flexibility could be something that's an important value, and that's what's rubbing up against it. And that could be the value there where the pressure's coming from, or the pain's coming from, let's put it that way, because you have the pressure to get all the work done. You have the pressure to be at your office to get the work done, but being flexible with your life and going to a park and going for a walk and spending time with your family could be important values for you as well, and having that time to spend with them. But you're putting that pressure to get it all done, and that's where the dissonance and the pain comes from.
So once I have these values, let's dig into this last kind of bullet point here, which is you're saying about looking at whether there's a better way to get the work done. So tell me about how my values help me figure that out.
Well, it's about seeing which values align with the work that you're doing, with the billable hours, with the time you're spending at work, with the time you're spending away from your family. How do these values align, and how can you make them work together that you're choosing to be there, rather than feeling forced to be at work, rather than feeling forced to do these billable hours, rather than feeling forced to be away from your family? You're choosing to be at work. You're choosing to do these hours. You're choosing to spend that time away from your family, and looking at the values and how they interact with them, and how each one interacts and says, well, this is a better way to look at this, and it's okay that I'm away. And it's normal to feel some of this pressure, and it's normal to want to be at work. That's how you determine what's a better way to do it, what's the best way to work, and finding, as we talked about before, that paradigm to find that ideal workplace.
Well, and you use the word choice, and I think that's such an important word in terms of finding this feeling of balance or this perception of being in control. Because if I understand my values and I'm making a conscious choice in how I'm approaching the work that I have to do, I'm going to feel much more in control than if I'm experiencing it as all the choice making is outside of me and I'm just a victim of it, right? So that there's the real payoff for taking the time to do this. So to recap a little bit, so we're talking here about this values thing again that we talk a lot about, and that you're trying to get this alignment so that you're not in conflict all the time. So step one was really know what your core values are. And that helps you then, in step two, to understand why you're bothering to put this pressure on yourself, why it matters, and then using that to find a better way to solve the problem or to find the balance or to negotiate the feeling of conflict that I'm dealing with. Did I get those right?
You did, exactly.
All right, and again, working with you, Rob, this is what this is all about, is taking someone who is an attorney and helping them find this kind of balance. So how should they get in touch with you if they want to do some of that work?
They can come to the website, Graff.com, sign up on the first page. There's a link to sign up and get a free 30-minute session with me, or you can come to the Contact Us page, or email me directly at robert@graffstandard.com.
And we will be back at you very shortly with another episode of the 6-Minute Obsession, but you can get on the notification list just if you're watching this on Graffstandard.com. Right below here is a subscription box so that you can get an email that tells you what the next topic is, when the show is, and you won't miss a thing. So join us at Graffstandard.com and sign up for the 6-Minute Obsession. Talk to you soon.
See you soon.